welcome to Souped Up Recipes. Today we will be using a Kitchenaid to make noodles from scratch. I know making noodles with a pasta maker is pretty basic, but there are lots of tips here and there that you want to be aware with. Besides that, I will also talk about how to pick the right flour and how different types and brands of flour affects the end result. How to store them so you can always have fresh noodles in hand. At the end, you will also get lots of recipe examples that you can cook with these noodles. So let's get started. In the Kitchenaid mixing bowl, combine the following ingredients. 500 grams of flour, preferably high gluten wheat flour. 3 medium-sized eggs. They weigh about 150 grams without the shells. 100 grams of water. If you don't like egg, you can leave it and use 240 grams of water instead. Last, a teaspoon of salt. Get your spatula and give them a nice premix. If you notice that I ask for high gluten flour, you might wonder, what is gluten and what does it do? It is a term for the specific proteins that are found in wheat, which can bond with each other and provide an elastic structure. In Chinese, we use the word 筋道 to describe good noodles. It means the tenderness of the noodles. You know, how it gives you a firm and chewy texture? Different brands and types of wheat-based flour contain different amounts of protein, which leads to different gluten-forming potentials. You want to get the flour that is high in protein. You just check the label and calculate the percentage. For making noodles with a pasta maker, around 10% is good enough. Of course, the higher the better, but no need to chase the highest because we are not making hand-pulled noodles. I have been making my own noodles all the time and I have tried many brands. These are my favorite. This one is what I'm using today, high gluten flour, a Chinese brand. Not that easy to find though, you have to look online or go to a Chinese grocery store. These two are Korean brands. They make excellent noodles. One of them, the package says all-purpose flour, but it is specialized for making noodles and the texture is 10 out of 10. I highly recommend you to use bread flour because it is widely available. You do not need to drive to an Asian market. I have used it many times. The texture of the noodles, I would say it's 9 out of 10. However, these are just my personal preference. You can try different brands and see how you like them. Now, let's get back to the noodle making process. It should look like this before you run the machine. Use the dough hook attachment. We will run it on low speed for 15 to 18 minutes in total. Every egg is different, and different types and brands of flour have different abilities to absorb water. I did give you an exact water amount, but that is for reference. You should slightly adjust it based on your situation. This is how I balance the water-flour ratio. During the first 5 minutes of kneading, stand next to the machine so you can keep an eye on it. When you see all the flour formed together into a rough piece like that, you can stop the machine for a second. Make sure your hand is clean and dry. Grab a piece of the dough, squeeze it really tight, and then let go. If the dough sticks to your hand like that, you need to add more flour. In my case, I used about 50 grams more flour to adjust. Keep kneading until you don't see any dry flour. We're looking for a low water ratio though, which means the dough needs to be pretty hard and non-stick to your hand. Let's check again. Use your clean and dry hand to squeeze it tightly, then let go. The dough should release immediately from your hand and it shouldn't stick at all. I think that is good. Now you can set the timer and let it run at low speed for 10 more minutes. 10 minutes later, roughly knead these large chunks of dough together. Cover it, let it rest for 30 minutes. Now, let's take a look of the Kitchenaid pasta maker attachment. This one helps you to roll the dough into sheets. It has an adjustable knob, which will decide the thickness of your sheet. The other two will help you to cut the noodles. The dough has been rested for 30 minutes. Take it out. The amount that I gave is enough to make 6 portions of noodles, so we will divide it into 6 even pieces. You can scale it if you want. I just go with my eyes. Roughly flatten each piece with your hand so it can go through the machine easily. Put on the attachment. Start with the widest thickness. Let the dough piece go through the machine one by one. Once you are done with the first roll, this is what you will get. Be careful when you pile the dough sheets up because they can stick together if you let them sit for a while. I don't want to apply cornstarch at this point because I like to fold the edges and shape it into kind of a rectangle. Push it hard so it doesn't have any air trapped in there. These straight lines will make sure your noodles come out with the same length. Still use the first thickness. Let the dough go through the machine again. This time, the sheet will come out smoother and neat. I will fold it again in half. If not, I'll end up with extra long noodles. I don't like that. Same thickness. Let the sheets go through the machine again. Basically, you want to fold them repeatedly until they come out nice and smooth, and they should be in an almost rectangle shape. Once you're happy with the shape and you are not going to fold them anymore, you can apply the cornstarch on the surface to prevent them from sticking to each other. Apply it evenly on both sides. Starch doesn't contain gluten, so it will keep the noodles separated from each other, even if you let them sit for days in the fridge. If you use flour to prevent the stickiness, you might end up with a sticky mess after a few days of storing them in the fridge, because the gluten in the flour can recombine the noodles. Now you're ready to change the setting on the knob and start rolling out the sheets thinner. I like to go from one step at a time. If you jump the thickness, you might end up with tears or jagged edges. My personal preference, I will use level 4 or 5 as my final thickness, depends on what recipe I'm going for. Once you got your desired thickness, switch the attachment to cut the noodles. The Kitchenaid attachment comes with spaghetti and fettuccine cutter. I got 6 portions of noodles today, so I'm gonna do 3 portions each. For the spaghetti, we actually call it 细面 in Chinese, which means thin noodles. The fettuccine, we call it 宽面, means white noodles. Add some cornstarch in the mixing bowl. Toss the noodles around and they will be lightly covered with the cornstarch. Switch to the other end. Toss again. Shake off the excess starch. The noodles are done. You can cook them right away or store them. These noodles are freezer friendly. I like to make a big batch and store them in a sealed container. It will last 4 to 5 months in the freezer. It will also stay good in the fridge for up to a week. Whenever you want to cook them again, you can directly put them in boiling water without defrosting. They will taste just as good as they were fresh. If you need to defrost them in any case, be sure to keep the container sealed until it becomes room temperature. If the lid is open while defrosting, the noodles will absorb the moisture in the air and you will end up with a sticky mess. Here are lots of recipe examples that you can cook with these noodles. Seriously, I feel like words are not enough to describe how much I love about noodles. In the future, I will share even more noodle recipes. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any episode. Here is a noodle playlist that you can use these noodles. Go check it out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching and I will see you next time. Bye!